Hi there, welcome to my review of The Killing of a Sacred Deer. So this is the fourth film by director Yorgos Lanthimos, who has really sort of built a name in the past few years for himself by being quite a distinctive director. He's part of what some have called the Greek Weird Wave, which is a current film movement, which is, by the way, a great name for a film movement. It's better than being another new wave. His work is known for being sort of surreal, out there. He has a very distinct tone, which is kind of where everyone is very blunt, everyone's quite emotionless, but they're kind of open about things, and it's kind of like our world, but it's like a never sort of world which isn't quite ours. His films have all previously sort of tended to be about various sort of concepts that are about society. So his most famous works are probably Dogtooth and The Lobster. Dogtooth was about what happens when a family or a group of people cut themselves off from society. You know, what happens when people are raised without knowing what the outside world really is. And The Lobster was about relationships and how they work in the modern world, and how a lot of it comes down to people matching you with other people because, oh, you have the same interests and that sort of thing. And what he does is he takes these ideas and he makes them very literal. He makes them very much extended beyond belief and exaggerated, and for both comic effect and for satirical and genuine thought-provoking effect. He tries to make you think about what he's saying. The big thing with The Killing of a Sacred Deer, I think, is that it's an interesting work that's both sort of denser, but also a bit more difficult than some of his other films. So the plot basically, Colin Farrell, now a Lanthimos two-timer, so obviously they like working together, starred The Lobster and now The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Colin Farrell returns and he plays a surgeon. And this surgeon is friends with a young boy, teenager, played by Barry Keoghan, who best known probably for his recent breakout sort of in Dunkirk, the Christopher Nolan movie. And what happens is Barry Keoghan has sort of a secret, and when it comes out, and then that really affects the lives of Colin Farrell and his wife, played by Nicole Kidman, and their children. And it becomes really, really important, and it becomes really, really dark. And really, that's all I think that you need to know going in. I think once you see it, you kind of, okay, the less you know might be the better thing here. And what's really clear about the killing of a Sacred Deer is that, unlike something like The Lobster or Dogtooth, which were really cool concepts I could just sort of throw out there, society, cutting yourself off, or relationships, this isn't that. This is much more sort of dense and much more bizarre. You can't quite work out what the film's going to be for quite a long proportion of it. You pick up the tone early on, but then you don't know what the story's going to be, or really. It's loosely based on a ancient Greek story. The really good things about The Killing of a Sacred Deer is that you're going to get to the end of it and you're going to appreciate it for what it is. Like, it is genuinely intense and really scary, and it's genuinely intense. By the time I got to the end of the film, I was really shaking. There are some moments which are truly, truly terrifying. And it's not that it's a horror movie, it's just that it's so intense. And that's really effective. The other things that are really interesting about it, there is some genuine ideas about morals and ethics and what's the right thing to do in certain scenarios, and these ideas are all sort of thrown out there, and they bounce off each other, and you sort of understand them. Where the film falls down for me a little bit is I do think it's a little muddled. I feel like I can't really work out what Lanthimos is trying to possibly say with this. There's no cool concept I can sort of look at and go, okay, I kind of get why he's done this. It's kind of just an exaggerated world for the sake of it. You don't really get what he could be on about. And either the film is less clever than his other movies, and he's kind of just thrown stuff together and let it sort of appear on screen, or it's cleverer and it's actually really beyond the other ones, which you could reduce down. Like, you really have to think about it and get it. And I have to say, for me personally, I didn't. I thought it was a really well-made movie, but it didn't do much for me intellectually. I just sort of thought it was a kind of a shallow exercise in making bad people do bad things to each other for 2 hours. And I like a good movie where bad people do bad things to each other, but there's a point where I'm going, this is clearly not meant to be sleazy, but it's clearly trying to be artsy, but I don't know what that artistic motivation or intention is. You're just artistic without really doubling down on that. There's nothing beneath that I can really go, oh, I see this. All it is really is a knotted mess of ideas, which I think are meant to be representative of, say, of like just moral quandaries that you're meant to ponder, like, oh, what would I do? And truth, that's where the film succeeds. You do sit here, you do wonder at times where you stand with it. Would you do what the characters do on screen? And that's kind of interesting. And I have to say, it's intense, it's thrilling, it's it does kind of grip you, and you sort of get caught up in it, and it's puzzling and it's baffling. And it is definitely sort of an antidote to the sort of sequelitis you will see in a lot of Hollywood right now. This is genuinely out there. This is different, it's unique. There's no film like it. The fact is, I think it's Lanthimos' worst film that I've seen by him. I don't think it's as impressive as a Lobster by any stretch. I think it's sort of... It's so intense as well that it's almost unenjoyable in parts. I think deliberately so, and I kind of appreciate that it's deliberately unenjoyable, but that doesn't change the fact that if I'm gonna deliberately not have fun, I want to have something else to grip onto, and I didn't. There's nothing to relate to, because there's nothing that I could obviously go, this is our world. It's kind of difficult. You kind of difficult to grip onto it. You can grip onto the Lobster because you can go, oh yeah, I understand sort of how dating works in our world, and I can see how in an exaggerated form this is that. Like the way people do get, if you're not in a relationship, you can in some ways feel like an outcast, or it can feel like you're forced with people, or that like you're gonna get turned into a lobster, right? In a ridiculous, exaggerated world. There's nothing in The Killing of a Sacred Deer which makes you go, oh, I could see this being our world now, times a million. It's because I think it's just less exaggerated, and also It both less exaggerated that it's more like our world, but then it's less pointed, it's less focused on anything. It's kind of a bit hazy, like, is it about the morals of it? Is it about how these people react? Or like, what is it? It's kind of a mess. It's a very good mess, it's a very well made mess. But I have to be honest, it didn't do anything for me. It played in Cannes this summer, it won I think Best Screenplay. Which I mean is fair. Which I mean isn't. I think it is a bad call. I think there's been many better. I think most of the times I've seen that played at Cannes did have a better screenplay. But I mean, not all, but a lot. Admittedly, that they mostly won other awards, so I guess it kind of cancels out. I guess. Here's what I think. I think if you like Lanthimos, this movie, if you really dig Lanthimos, and I'll be upfront, I do like his films, but I've never particularly gone head over heels, this is a masterpiece. I've just sort of thought they were all pretty great. I think this is going to be either the Lanthimos. I think this will be really. I think if you really dig into it and go, I think this is his cleverest film, which you very well could because of how many ideas are sort of thrown out there. I think you might go, this is Lanthimos, this is my favourite. I think you could also be a Lanthimos fan like me, who's a bit more hesitant, and watch it and go, well, I think there's less here than he's ever had before, and so it might be your weakest. I think if you haven't seen a Lanthimos film, this isn't the place to start, but I think it's a good sort of, but I think it's a solid place to start. I think it's more obviously something to get into than Dogtooth, for example. But I think something like The Lobster is way more easier to just watch pretty blind. I feel like this is the film which requires you to either be willing to just be weirded out, or be willing to accept what it's going to be. And what it's going to be is quite an intense thing. Also, final thing, I'm like pretty hospital phobic, and I literally knew nothing about The Killing. I knew nothing about this film. And I sat down in the cinema and the film started, and the first like minute is like a close up of like heart, like a proper close up of heart surgery, and it just lasts for like a minute, and the shot is just constant, and I was like, oh god, I have a phobia of surgery, of hospitals, of needles, all that stuff just fucks me up, and I was just sat there watching it going, if this is what this film is, I'm gonna hate it. Not on the level of, oh, it's badly made, but on the level of, I am just not going to be able to watch it. And luckily, beyond that first minute, it's not really about surgery, but that first minute I was like, oh god, please don't be what I think this is going to be. Because it really did seem like it was going to be a film about like stuff happening in surgery. And it isn't, which is good, because I could not have watched it. So yeah, pretty much I'd say worth a watch. Probably, I'd say it's pretty easily a good film. Not a great film, but definitely a good one. So yeah, so if you like this review, which is kind of a mess, but whatever, you can give it a like. If you want to keep up to date with what I'm watching, what I'm thinking, you can either follow me on Letterboxd or on Twitter. I'll put links in the description. And I'd say The Killing of a Sacred Deer is a good movie.